why we African Americans hate ourselves. Now, when I say that, the average African American, what are you talking about, Carl? I don't hate myself. But I tell them, if you watch the way we talk about each other, the way we deal with each other, then subconsciously we have a problem with who we are. And then I began to say, okay, I first noticed this problem. I was a young engineer in Silicon Valley, and we were all professionals, doctors, lawyers, teachers. And I began to notice when we would get together on a weekend and we would be talking, if a successful black person came up or somebody was doing something good, somebody would have something negative to say about them. And a lot of times I would be in on it too, you know. And one night I began to notice, hey, something's wrong here. Why is this happening? And I began to realize there was a program in us towards each other, and I wanted to find out where that program came from. So without trying to search anybody else's lives and souls, what I did at that moment, I began to go back and say, okay, why do I talk about black people? Why do I have this? Where did it come from? So I went back to elementary school, and I began to reflect on the negative things on the playground. And if a kid was dark-skinned, we would say ABC, which meant America's blackest child. You know? So we are 6, 7, 8 years old, but we already know in our little minds that something's not quite right if you're dark-skinned. And another little playground thing we used to say, if you're white, all right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back. And we were playing those games. And I said, wow, who programmed us? Now, I don't remember growing up around the white folks in those days. So evidently those programs had been put there by other black people. And I began to search out through high school, and I went through college, and I just began to look at myself and what I had grown up around. And I remember when I was at Tuskegee, we used to play cards. And if you play cards with us, when we play cards, we hit the table. We talk a lot of smack. That's just the way we are. So if you're playing cards, somebody throw a card on the table and say, ends and flies I do despise. The more I see ends, the more I love flies. And we would laugh and have a good time. Somebody else would say, oh, man, I remember the ends selling for 10 cents a dozen, about $40 worth. I ain't run out yet. And as I began to reflect back over my life, I realized that a program that had been put in me that I had to get rid of it. So I began to deprogram myself before I began to talk to anybody else or any of my friends about the way they felt about themselves and the way they felt about us subconsciously. And then I began to set them up in little conversations so I could prove it. So one way I would always set up my friends, we would be talking about something. I would always work around to where I could talk about doing business with a black business person or spending money with a black person to hear their reaction. Instantly, without thinking. The first thing was that, man, I ain't going to spend no money with that guy. He going to do this. It ain't that good. He ain't that good. And I ain't spending my money. And I would trap them. I said, why not? And they would think for the first time, and they would come up with valid reasons why. I said, do you realize that you're not giving the brother or sister business a chance? And one Sunday after church, I got this sister real good. She came out of church, and she was pregnant. And everybody was teasing her because the other kid was 14, and here you having another one. There was a black gynecologist about a mile up the street, Ron Anders. So when I got a chance, I threw in, I said, oh, baby, you got to go on up and see Ron now. Without thinking, she said, oh, Carl, I can't have anybody touching me. I got to go see his sheepskin. Where did he go to school? I said, well, now, did you ask your white gynecologist to see his sheepskin the way he went to school? Oh, shucks. Next thing I know, I spend my money with that Negro. He'll be living in the hills, riding around in a Mercedes. Oh, does it bother you that your white doctor may have a Mercedes and condominiums in Hawaii? By this time, she figured out she had walked into my trap. And she said, oh, Carl, you know I don't think nothing about that. I said, oh, but you did. The program that you just ran off told me that you did. And I would begin to play this game within myself to get black people to realize that the way we treat each other and the way we are involved with each other, we have a problem. And we don't want to talk about it because it's air and dirty laundry. But you got to put it out there first to realize, hey, we got a problem with ourselves, and then understand the program, then we can do something about it.